Today I'm going to show you the most heated animal rivalries, where whooping the rival at first sight is mandatory. Dolphins versus sharks. One of the most famous fistfights is the one between the psychopathic dolphins and the murderous sharks. On my left, dolphins love to swim around, forming gangs ready to mess up any cocky individual that doesn't show them enough respect. Well, I say that, but even if they show some respect, they'll get roughed up anyway. And on my right, the sharks, led by the mythical great white, which have balls of steel and prefer beating people up one by one. This is why, most of the time, sharks are slapped hard and humiliated by groups of dolphins that do circles around them and ram them violently with their head without stopping until the shark gives up. Small reminder that a dolphin weighs more than 400 pounds, so imagine taking a heavy hit from it right in your rib cage. No thanks. But let's not disrespect sharks, because when you're in a group, you tend to be cocky, which then makes dolphins forget to stay in the group when they are fighting a shark, causing their pure and simple extinction from life, because in a head-to-head fight, it is the killing machine that is the shark that will have the last laugh. Grizzly versus wolves. Let's leave the ocean for a second and go to the northern lands, where the lack of respect is paid fully and at a heavy price. Because when the local bosses meet, there is only one way to appease everyone: straight up violence, because peace is obtained when your enemy isn't a threat anymore. So the wolf packs often include a dozen individuals who are almost 3 feet high and 7 feet wide, and they all have one thing in mind: beating the crap out of their victims from the land of the living to the darkness of the afterlife. And of course, as bloodthirsty mad lads, they attack the biggest bodyguards in the area, including gigantic moose, massive buffaloes, and they even dare to try chewing the cheeky butt of grizzly bears, which aren't little punks, weighing 600 pounds with a taste for blood living deep inside them that they use along with their big paws to chop your head off anytime they feel like it. So, what happens when they meet, you ask? Well, either the wolves eat Nadal-like backhands from the bear and it's a KO waiting to happen, or they can exhaust the grizzly by harassing his ass for hours and hours, for days, before biting him hundreds of times until he taps out and gets eaten alive. Mongoose versus snake. If I tell you mongoose, you think of a cute little shit, but nothing more, right? Well, to that I counter that it is the #1 enemy of a whole bunch of the worst poisonous snakes on the planet. And notice that I said enemy and not victim, because the mongoose has no damn respect for nobody. Just look at how it dares to dance around with confidence when a cobra or a black mamba try to kill it, knowing both these snakes would make us cry for mommy if they attacked us. This is a duel that has no mercy, that is only allowed by natural justice, because 1, the mongoose has reflexes as sharp as the excuses of people who cheat on their boyfriend and girlfriend, and 2, it carries a heavy resistance to a small amount of devastating venom. Here, either the mongoose tires out the snake like Canelo Alvarez, or the snake injects him a bit too much venom and it's game over. Either case, the loser will have its butt cheeks eaten raw on that day. Lions versus hyenas. The most mythical rivalry in the animal kingdom rages between the fearless lions, which we know slap the face of antelopes, gazelles, zebras, warthogs, and I don't know how many other animals with their 7-foot-long, 440-pound bodies, and their hunting skills, and their ability to form groups that don't give one chance to survive to their opponents. Opponents who very often are hyenas, dominated by females with extreme IQ adept at ball busting. And it's not a figure of speech. They are literally biting the balls of the lions they manage to encircle to make them understand that the king of the jungle can go f himself. There never was, there is not, and there never will be peace between these animals. As soon as they cross each other, the war is on. And the little ones are no exception, because a strong and adult lion will not hesitate to break the neck of a baby hyena to prevent it from growing up and participating on the side of the hyenas in this ancestral war. Sperm whale versus giant squid. Coming directly from horror movies, this endless battle represents animal violence as we like it, because the sperm whales, these monsters of the deepest seas, which are the only animals to stand up to the orcs, weigh more than 90,000 pounds, distributed over 52 feet long. And although the male can smash out the orcas without problem when looking at them, it very often happens to see clearly visible scars on their body, which are all traces of head-to-head battles with giant squids who swarm the sea depths with a flaccid body of 42 feet for 550 pounds, armed with an incredible beak that could break our skulls in 2 seconds before drinking us like a very sweet apple pear compote. Believe it, to be able to make such marks on the mightiest of the seas, this battle must be legendary. What a pity that it only takes place in the darkness of the depths. Elephant versus rhinoceros. Have you ever wondered who would win in a fight between an angry elephant and a rhino who wants to stab a fool? On my left, the largest head crusher in the animal world, 10 feet high and 13,000 powerful pounds, which shakes the surface of the planet. Nightmare of cocky felines, cocky aquatic animals, and really any cocky fella. It is extremely difficult to imagine anything standing up against this behemoth, which loves to physically harass its victims. But on my right, it is not your regular son of a bitch, because with 5,000 pounds and over 13 feet long, ready to stab its enemies with its mythically known horn in order to dig into them ventilation holes so as to make them less dense, mother. So who wins? Well, it's which feels more able to obliterate the other, because everything situation exists in the savannah. Elephants that slap the crap out of rhinos, and rhinos that send elephants straight home crying for mommy. Python versus alligator. In America, it's a fight between and alligators, meaning a 100% reptilian hatred between the Burmese python, a giant bastard of almost 20 feet long for more than 220 pounds of muscle, which loves to offer a complete massage to its victims, leading them to a definitive, never-ending night of sleep. And on the other side, the death machine that is the alligator, 16 feet long for nearly 990 pounds, expert in chewing up inferior living beings, which have no other choice but to be swallowed raw if they come across this dinosaur-like creature. When these two animal bosses at the top of the food chain come to blows, it is the fastest who manages to grab the other by the collar which will win. Like here, where the python opted for a perfectly executed submission hold, leaving the alligator with only the choice to pray to his ancestors as a last resort, because it will soon join them. Honey badger versus lions. I love it when entitlement mixes with aggression for no logical reason. The honey badger is the most aggressive animal in the world, solely because it wants to kick ass every day 24/7. Even though it is barely 3 feet long for 33 small pounds, this crazy little thing shouldn't be anything more than a sweet meal for big predators. But it's the complete opposite, as it never hesitates to put clap back and attack first much more massive animals, and even goes as far as showing relentlessness in a handicap match against lions, whether it is alone or not. Nothing seems to put an end to the honey badger's emperors that offer an unprecedented rivalry with lions that never seem to understand why this species of little cocks gives them so much trouble by resisting to their ferocious bites and biting them right back without fearing anything. Like, damn. Bear versus tiger. The sloth bear in its crazy looking head offers us an epic fight against tigers worthy of the greatest Avengers movies. With its 3.3 foot long body, 300 pounds heavy, it is a small bag of rage and violence embodied by this quite unknown bear that lives in the Asian tropics. One of its characteristics is that it eats with its mouth open, with such cockiness that it can be heard eating for miles, probably to ensure that all the idiots nearby know not to come around, or they'll for sure find out what it's like to have their jaw ripped off. And as nature often knows how to make epic manga-style fights, the tiger, the most violent and powerful feline on the planet, lives in the same lands as this bear. And when its 900 pounds faces this crazy bear, one would think that being twice its weight, the tiger would make short work of it. But you know that in street fights, it is better not to face someone crazy, and that's what the sloth bear is, which unleashes itself by distributing slaps in the tiger's mouth in order to disfigure it, because it's the only way not to have his little butt eaten raw. Rhinoceros versus hippopotamus. Alright, now we have huge guys, which seem to be in the same fighting category. Coming straight from the world of unicorns, but with a few extra pounds of muscles, the 5,000-pound rhino is an expert at defending its space by slamming anyone that thinks they're shit by stabbing them repeatedly until their blood is all over the place, so as to stop their bullshit. But, oh shit, if it isn't the biggest leg-breaking animal in the world standing right in front of it, because with hippos that are 13 feet long and 10,000 pounds, it's not even that they are not afraid of anyone, it's that they will actively seek to bully any being around for their own sadistic pleasure. Doesn't matter if it's lions, crocs, or harmless little creatures like poor gazelles, everyone will suffer. So when these two gladiators face each other, it is the first to pee itself out of fear of the other that will suffer an unimaginable volume of violent punishment without the possibility of calling for help. And of course, it often is the hippos that will impose their law by making the rhinos regret they even woke up that day. Leopard versus baboon. Hey, what happens if instead of having a little cat slapping humans, you balance the forces a bit by switching to a leopard on the feline side and a baboon on the primate/monkey side? Coming straight from the kingdom of murderous sweetness, the leopard and his 5'6" long body for 66 pounds is the ambush expert, like, now you see me, now you don't, and then I'll slit your throat. And one of its worst enemies is none other than the baboon, which is one of the most violent and aggressive animals on the planet, with its 33 inches and 55 pounds that turns its inner aggressiveness against other species as well as towards the most foolish members of its own family. Because why argue when you can settle any dispute by crushing the head of the other guy, right? The leopard being a formidable climber, capable of jumping from branch to branch, the battle rages in the trees between these two. And while the baboon hopes that the leopard will slip and break its neck on the ground in order to have a good laugh, the leopard, on the other hand, seeks the same thing for the baboon. But in this case, it is to make a meal out of its sweet-tasting butt cheeks.